One of the oldest myths about a hero's quest is the Greek myth of Jason and the Argonauts. It is a classic story of betrayal and retribution, with a tragic ending, as are many Greek myths. It all starts when Jason's uncle Peleus assassinates his father, the Greek king of Locos, and seizes his kingdom. Let's unravel the interesting story of the Jason and the Argonauts. But before we start, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Welcome to the mythological world. Now without any further delay, let us get back to the topic. Jason's childhood. Jason, the legitimate prince, was born in the midst of an interfamilial conflict for Iolcus' kingdom. Jason returned to his birthplace to take the throne after being reared by the centaur Chiron, but instead was tasked with the terrifying duty of retrieving the Golden Fleece. Peleus assaults on Iolcus' throne. Jason was the son of Aeson, king of Iolcus, although it is unclear who his mother was. Multiple names appear in different records. However, it was most likely Alcimede, Clymene's daughter, or Polymede, one of Autolycus' children. When Jason was a baby, his half-uncle Peleus, who was vying for Aeson's throne, killed all of Aeson's children and overthrew Aeson from the throne. However, he failed to kill Jason, who was sent by his parents to the centaur Chiron, who nurtured Jason into adulthood, just as he had many heroes before him. Meanwhile, Peleus had learned from an oracle to be suspicious of a guy wearing a single sandal and returning from the country. Jason returning to Iolcus. Jason getting back to Iolcus. Jason, now an adult, returned to Iolcus to participate in the games given by Peleus in honor of the god Poseidon. On the way, he lost one of his shoes in the river Inoris while assisting a disguised Hera to cross. Hera, who despised Peleus for failing to honor her, secretly blessed Jason at that time, instantly transforming him into an instrument via which she intended to bring Peleus' demise in the future. Jason arrived in front of Peleus and announced himself as Aeson's legitimate heir. Sensing the risk, Peleus asked Jason what he would have done if he had just met the man who would cause his death, presumably inspired by Hera, who, like Zeus with Heracles, sought to increase Jason's glory. Jason replied that he would send that man to get the Golden Fleece. So Peleus did exactly that. He assigned Jason the task of bringing the Golden Fleece to Iolcus, vowing that if Jason succeeded, he would abdicate the throne. Jason and Argonauts. Accepting the quest to transport the Golden Fleece from Colchis to Iolcus, Jason had a boat built and collected a group of heroes known as the Argonauts after the name of the ship, Argo. Jason and the Argonauts encountered numerous difficulties and perils on their journey and overcame them all. The Greek island of Lemnos. The Argonauts first arrived on the island of Lemnos after setting sail. At the time of the Argonauts' arrival, the island was ruled by Hypsipyle and inhabited entirely by women, who had slain all of their husbands for rejecting them because of their stink, a curse from Aphrodite, and taking in Thracian concubines. The Argonauts stayed on Lemnos for a while, sleeping with the island's women and establishing a new race known as Minyans. Jason had at least one kid with Hypsipyle, whom he named Euneus. The Gigae. Following Lemnos, the Argonauts traveled to the Doliones realm, where they were greeted graciously by their ruler, Cyzicus. While the majority of the Argonauts were looking for supplies beyond the adjacent Bear Mountain, their ship was attacked by the Gigaeans, the Earthborn, a race of six-armed giants who lived on the same island. Heracles, a member of the Argonauts' crew, killed several of them before the rest of the Argonauts arrived and drove the giants back. The Argo set sail again at night, but was blown back to the island, where the Doliones, believing they were being assaulted by pirates, boarded the ship. Many Doliones were killed in the battle, including Cyzicus, who was murdered by Jason. The penitent Argonauts performed a funeral for the dead monarch the next day, as the early light exposed the fatal blunder. His wife, Cleite, however, couldn't bear the scene and hanged herself from sadness. Phineus and the Harpies. The Argonauts' next stop was Samnitis in Thrace, where they encountered the blind king Phineus, who had nearly died from starvation as a result of the Harpies, cruel monsters sent by Zeus to steal his food on a regular basis. Jason felt sorry for Phineus and sent his crew to assist the king. After drawing the Harpies away with a lavish feast, the Boreads, Calais and Zetes, chased the Harpies away for good. Phineus, appreciative for Jason's assistance, disclosed to the Argonauts the location of Colchis as well as the route across the Symplegades, the clashing rocks. The Symplegades. The Symplegades were massive rock cliffs that would move and crush anything in their path. Phineus instructed Jason to release a dove and test if it would survive, as a premonition of what would happen to the ship. The dove passed with only a few tail feathers lost, so when the Argo went through the rocks, only minor damage was done to the ship's stern. At Colchis, Aeetes tasks. Jason and the Argonauts arrived in Colchis and were greeted by King Aeetes. The golden fleece was in the king's hands, having been given to him by Phrixus when he arrived on a flying golden ram years previously. Aeetes promised to give Jason the fleece if he fulfilled a few, apparently impossible, tasks in a single day. Jason was devastated when he discovered them. Fortunately for him, his guardian goddess Hera persuaded Aphrodite to bribe Eros to discharge one of his arrows into Aeetes' daughter Medea, making her fall in love with Jason. And Medea was more than simply a princess, she was also a high priestess of Hecate, well versed in the arts of magic and sorcery. Jason's first task was to plow a field from end to end with the Kolkotoroi, two fire-breathing bronze-hoofed bulls. Prompted by her sister and Jason's promise to marry her once the expedition was completed, Medea gave Jason an ointment that protected him from fire and rendered him practically invulnerable. Jason successfully yoked the bulls and plowed the field in record time, thanks to the balm. Jason's second assignment was to sow dragon's teeth in the plowed field. Though it appeared to be a simple work, its execution resulted in an army of stone soldiers emerging from the ground. Jason threw a boulder into the midst of the powerful warriors, as instructed by Medea. The warriors turned on each other, not knowing who had thrown it, and by sunset, Jason was the only one still alive on the field. Nonetheless, Aeetes refused to hand over the golden fleece just yet. On the contrary, he conspired with the leaders of Colchis to assassinate Jason and the Argonauts during the night. Medea fled from her father and joined the Argonauts, leading Jason to a sacred oak tree where the golden fleece hung, guarded by a sleepless dragon. Medea used medications and charms to put the dragon to sleep, allowing Jason to steal the golden fleece and return it to the Argo. Jason and Medea. Medea was so dedicated to Jason that she not only assisted him in extinguishing Talos, the enormous bronze man, but she also killed her own brother. Nonetheless, Jason deceived her by marrying another lady. Medea's vengeance was tragic and horrific. The murder of Aeetes. Jason, Medea, and the Argonauts left Colchis after obtaining the golden fleece. Medea killed her brother Apsyrtus and flung his pieces into the sea, forcing Aeetes to stop and retrieve them. Zeus, enraged by Medea's heinous murder of her brother, sent a series of storms on the Argonauts' journey home. To atone for their sins, Jason and Medea had to halt on the island of Aia, where the nymph Circe, Aeetes' sister, cleansed them without knowing the degree or type of the offense. So the Argonauts set sail. The Sirens and Talos. The Argonauts faced and braved many hazards on their journey back to Iolcus, two of which stand out. First, they faced the Sirens, who were notorious for making ships to crash into reefs due to their alluring vocals, which enchanted sailors and crews. The Argo was unique in that it carried Orpheus. The mythological poet played the lyre so brilliantly and loudly that it entirely drowned out the Sirens' calls, allowing the Argonauts to pass by these oddly entrancing beasts. The Argonauts encountered an even larger threat in Crete, Talos, a massive bronze man who guarded the island and flung stones at anybody who approached. Medea cast a spell on him and successfully removed the blockage that was keeping Talos Ichor, divine blood, in his single vein. As a result, he immediately bled to death. Aeson and Peleus. The Argonauts were eventually able to return home. Jason discovered his father Aeson at a very old age after many years had passed, and disturbed by the sight, he asked Medea to transfer some of his life to his father. Instead, Medea slit Aeson's throat and drained all of his old blood, replenishing his ancient veins with rich elixir. Aeson awoke 40 years younger, with all the vitality of youth, no longer thin and sallow. Peleus' daughters, moved by the unavenged Hera, urged Medea to perform the same for their father. Medea duped them into repeating the ceremony, only this time, she made sure there was no resurrection to follow. Thus, Peleus was killed by his daughters. His son, Acastus, became king and, predictably, exiled Jason and Medea from the island. Jason's unfaithfulness and Medea's revenge. The couple traveled to Corinth, where Jason fell in love with Creusa, King Creon's daughter, sometimes called Glauce. Infuriated, Medea confronted Jason, but he chose to ignore her. Medea exacted her retribution by sending Creusa a coronet and a poisoned dress, the effects of which are reminiscent of the shirt of Nessus. After Glauce had put on the dress, she was devoured with intense fire, together with her father, who hastened to her rescue. Medea then murdered Mermerus and Pharis, the two kids she had with Jason, either because she feared he would kill them in vengeance or because she wanted to inflict the most agonizing suffering on him. Medea abandoned Jason after committing this heinous act, flying to Athens on a serpent-drawn chariot sent by her grandpa, the sun god Helios. That's all about Jason and the Argonauts. Which was your favorite part of the story? Let us know in the comments section. Thanks for watching.